Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Learn Linux TV. In today's video, what I'm going to do is show off Tailscale. And Tailscale is really awesome. It's an easy-to-use networking solution that helps you connect your devices together regardless of where they are. You could use it to connect to your home office from work or vice versa, or maybe you want to access your storage server in your Homelab from, well, anywhere. Tailscale lets you do that and more. If you've never heard of Tailscale before, it's a mesh VPN solution based on WireGuard. You could use it by signing up for an account, and then you install the Tailscale client on your devices, and once you do that, they'll be added to your Tailscale network, which is dubbed a Tailnet. Tailscale provides us with a no-nonsense means of connecting our devices together. It's very easy to set up, and in this video, I'll go over everything you need in order to get started with it. The reason I decided to do this video is because recently I deployed Tailscale within my company and I use it several times a week. I love the flexibility of it and it's become an indispensable solution for me. So I figured I would take the time to show it off to you guys, hence the video. And this video in particular is for those of you that have not used Tailscale before. So if you're already familiar with Tailscale, well, you're not going to learn anything new here because what I'm going to do in this video is focus on the getting started part. I'm going to show you how to set up an account, how to install Tailscale on a few devices, and by the end of this video, you'll be able to use it in your daily toolset. Now, one more thing before we get started. I wanted to let you guys know that this video is being sponsored by Tailscale. Working with Tailscale made a lot of sense for me because it's something that I was already using, but just like all the other videos on this channel, I retain full creative control over this video. And I can't wait to get started and show off Tailscale, so how about I do that right now? First, let's talk about some of the requirements and considerations around Tailscale. To use this solution, you'll first need to create an account with Tailscale. There are several different plans available, ranging from free personal accounts to an enterprise account, depending on your needs. The personal account is limited to 3 users and 100 devices, but if you want more, you could consider one of the other plans. But if the personal account checks all the boxes for you, that might be good enough. But the main consideration at this point is which devices you might want to install Tailscale onto. There's clients available for mobile as well as desktop, so regardless of what kind of device you might have, for the most part, Tailscale should be able to work with it. Even if not, when we get into the concept of an exit node later in the video, you'll see just how flexible Tailscale is. So what we're going to do right now is create an account on Tailscale's website. Now, I already have an account that I use, but what I'll do right now is create one today so that way you can see what the process looks like. So what we're going to do is go to tailscale.com. Once we're there, we're going to click on this button right here that says Get Started. When we first sign up, we could choose between one of the listed identity providers for creating our account. I'll use the GitHub option on my end, but you could use whatever provider on the list makes the most sense for you. It doesn't really matter which one you choose, just keep in mind whichever one you do choose because that's how you're going to log in going forward. So what I'm going to do is click on the GitHub button right here. I'm going to use GitHub to sign up for a new account. And then right here, I'm going to type in my GitHub credentials to sign in. All right, so I'll paste in my password and click Sign In. And as you can see, now I'm signed in to my GitHub account. Now I'll go back to Tailscale. Now that I'm signed in to GitHub, I'll click Get Started again. I'll choose the GitHub option. Next, what I'll do is authorize Tailscale. And now what you see on your screen is the first run wizard. When you first sign up for an account, it's going to take you through several options. Now on my end, I'm going to choose personal use right here. It's just a demo account anyway. I'll probably delete it by the time the video is done recording. So I'll just choose that option and click Next. On the next screen, what we're going to do is add at least 2 devices to our Tailscale network. We need at least 2 devices to continue. I already prepared a few off camera, so what I'm going to do is copy this command right here. And then what I'm going to do is go to my Linux terminal. And now what I'm going to do is SSH into a Debian server. I created 3 virtual machines that I'm going to use as examples in this video. So I'll connect to the first one right now. And in case you're curious, this is a VPS instance. However, if you have a physical server, a virtual machine, whatever you might have, it should work just fine. So what I'll do is SSH into this guy right here. So I'll say yes to connect to the server. And as you can see, I'm logged in. In case you're curious, I'll show you the OS release information. And as you can see, I'm running Debian 12 on this particular instance. So this is the instance that I'll be adding, the first instance I'll be adding to my Tailscale account. Now off camera, I've already gone ahead and fully updated this server. So if you haven't already installed all of your security patches, I recommend that you do that first. It's really a good idea to have a really good starting point when you set up a new server for the very first time, so it's a good idea to have the updates taken care of. In fact, I have a video on my channel that outlines the first things that you should set up on every server, so make sure that you watch that video if you haven't already done so, because it's going to give you some best practices that you should take advantage of on every Linux server. Anyway, what I'm going to do is paste in the command that we copied earlier, and then I'll type in my super secret password, and I'll press enter. And this should happen fairly quick. It doesn't take all that much time at all for this to finish. It's going to install Tailscale, and then we should get a message as soon as it's done, and it's already done. Now notice at the bottom, we get a command listed, sudo tailscale up. Now if I switch back to the web browser, you'll see right here that nothing has happened yet. It's still waiting for our first device. So our server has not even attempted to contact Tailscale yet. And that's where that command comes in, the one that was just shown on the screen. So I'll bring that back. So I'll run the command earlier, sudo tailscale up, just like that, and press enter. Now at this point, we get this URL right here. So what we need to do is verify the login. So I'll just copy this URL here. I'll switch back to my browser. And then in another tab, what I'll do is just paste that right in here. We'll click Authorize Tailscale. And next we'll click Connect, and this should verify the connection and allow our Linux server to connect to our Tailnet. So I'll click Connect. It says Login Successful. Now if I go back to this tab right here, we already see the first Debian instance that I've added to my Tailnet. Now I mentioned earlier that we need at least 2 devices, so what I'm going to do right now is add the second device. So I'll switch back to a terminal. I'm going to exit from this server right here. And what I'm going to do is connect to the second server. This one is also going to be a Debian 12 server, so same thing for the most part. So I'll connect to that IP address right there. I'll verify the connection, and I'm logged in. We're doing the exact same thing a second time. We'll type in our super secret password, and I'll press enter. Now, same thing again. I'm going to run sudo tailscale up, just like that. We get yet another URL to sign into here. We need to verify the connection. So I'll switch back to the browser. And let's paste that in right here. We'll allow the device to connect. It says login successful. Back here in the original tab, you can see that both servers are now listed. So at this point, we have satisfied the requirements for Tailscale. We have the 2 devices that we need at a minimum. So we could click right here where it shows success, it works. We'll click on that. And then we'll go to our admin console. And here we see the actual admin console. And again, we see both of the servers that I set up earlier. So we know that Tailscale is at least working in regard to the servers being able to connect to Tailscale. We'll double check that in a moment. But what I want to do right now is show you how to add a device to your Tailnet when you already have the account. What we did was we just signed up for an account, and then it asked us to add some servers to the account. But how do you add a server if you already have the account established? Where do you go to do that? It's actually quite easy though, because right here we have a section, Add Devices to Your Network. So what I'm going to do is click right here where it shows Linux, because I'm going to add another Linux server. We're going to grab this command right here, As you can see, we're going to paste that into our terminal. But we're going to paste it into another server. So I'm going to exit this one. I'm going to add a third server. And this time it's going to be running Alma Linux. I wanted to show you something other than Debian, just to show you that it really doesn't matter which distribution of Linux you're running. It works on pretty much all of them. So what I'm going to do right now is connect to my Alma Linux server. There's the IP address for that one, so I'll connect to it. I'll say yes. And we're ready to get started. In case you're curious, what I'll do now is show you the OS release information. Just like I did before. As you can see, I'm running Alma Linux version 9.5. So that's what I'm working with right now. So we're going to add a different distribution to our Tailnet. So what I'll do is paste in the command. And there it is. So I'll press enter. I'll type in my super secret password. And press enter. Now what I'm going to do, just like last time, is type sudo tailscale up. And we get this little URL right here, just like we did before, so it's going to look very similar this time around. And then back in the browser, what I'll do is just paste this in another tab right here and press enter. I'll click Authorize Tailscale. I'll click Connect. And it says successful. So let's go back here to our dashboard. And as we can see, the Alma Linux server is already showing as being part of our Tailnet. It gives you the version of Tailscale that you're running, so you can check to see if anyone's out of date here and get them updated accordingly. But as you can see now, we have 3 devices on our network. So what I should be able to do is, well, I should be able to access the other devices. So if I go ahead and copy this IP address right here, this is of the first Debian server. What I'll do, switch back to my terminal. And then from my Alma Linux server, what I'm going to do is ping that IP address. And as you can see, it works. Before we continue, what I want to do right now is show you exactly how the IP address looks when we check it on our Linux server. So from any one of the devices, what we could do is type IP addr-show. We want to see the IP addresses. And right here, we have the actual IP address for the server. This is not the Tailnet IP. It has nothing to do with Tailscale. This is the IP address of the server itself, the one that it already had. Now, as you can see, it didn't take this away. We still have the IP address here that we had before, but what we have now is an additional interface. It shows Tailscale 0, and this is where we see the IP address of our instance. So even if you're not logged into the dashboard for Tailscale, you can still find out what the IP address is for your instance if you're on that instance by checking the IP address just like you normally would on any other server. So from this point forward, we can access this server via its normal IP address, the one it already had, or we could access it via the Tailnet IP. And the beauty of this is we could completely firewall this off if we wanted to do that and maintain connection through the Tailnet. It gives us a lot of options for how we allow this device to be accessed. I'll leave that part up to you, but I wanted to show you how you check to see what your Tailnet IP is from within your terminal. Now let's go back to the web browser here and just take a look around. Now that we have our account set up, we have servers set up on that account, what can we do with it? How do we actually use it? And for the most part, the interface is very self-explanatory. We've already seen the list of servers here, and we already saw the section for documentation links down here. So if you wanted to add a device to your Tailnet, such as something from Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Windows, whatever you have, you could click one of these links and follow the instructions accordingly. But that's all that we've seen so far. We also have an Add Device option up here. So if you wanted to add a Linux server even quicker than doing so from down here, we could click Linux Server. And what we could do is scroll down here and generate an install script. And basically what that's going to do is just give you an install script very similar to what we already had. But we have the off key already here, so it just makes the process a little bit easier. There's really no right or wrong way to do it, but if you wanted to take a little shortcut, this is a shortcut that you could take right here. You could also search for a machine if you are looking for one. But what I'm going to do is go through the other sections, some of these relatively quickly because they're outside the scope of this video. However, if you are curious about something that's outside the scope of this video, let me know in the comments if you think I should do a dedicated video about that feature. If there's enough demand for it, I might make more Tailscale videos going forward. So let's take a quick look at the Apps tab. Now, what this allows you to do is add third-party software as a service applications to your Tailnet. So what we'll do here is just click Add. I at least want to see the names of the apps that are available or the types of things that we can have attached to our Tailnet. And right here, you can already see a few things that might be useful. So for example, if you use Google Workspace, Confluence, or one of these other services right here, you can add them directly into your Tailnet. Again, this is out of scope for this video. I'm not going to know which ones of these applications you might be using. Again, if there's demand for it, I might do a follow-up video. But I at least wanted you to be aware of the fact that you can add applications, individual applications, to your Tailnet. Continuing, we have another service here that's outside the scope of this video, but I at least want you to be aware that it exists. What you can do with the Services tab is expose applications to the public internet that you have running on your local network. So for example, if you wanted to have a Nextcloud server be publicly available, then you can do that. What this is going to do, if you enable this, is take a look at the servers. So for example, the Tailnet client will see that you have a particular port or service that's being offered, and then give you an option to use that through this. Again, if you want to see a dedicated video on that, I'd be more than happy to make that for you guys. Continuing, we have the Users tab. You can invite external users to your Tailnet, and this is really cool because if you have a team, for example, and you have team members and you want them to be able to access your network devices, you can send them an invite through this link right here, and they can set up an account on their end. And since you invited them, then they'll show up here. But right now, I only have my user account right here because that's all I need. But if you need other user accounts, especially if you're part of an IT team, then this is where you would go to set that up. Now, access controls are going to be a lot more advanced, especially for this video being more of an introductory video. But if you wanted to define a policy for which devices and users are allowed to connect to your network, which is really a great thing to do, you definitely want that fine-grained or fine-tuned control over who or what is able to access your network. So if you wanted to create a policy, then you can actually edit the file right from here. So if that's something you wanted to do, I'll leave that up to you. And again, let me know if you want a follow-up video. But continuing here, we have the Logs tab, and this is pretty important. The information here is fairly self-explanatory. It has logging information, such as an API key being created, as we see here. A node was added to our network. So if you want to audit exactly what's going on in your Tailnet, maybe you want to look for something that doesn't belong or you're troubleshooting something, then you could do so through the logs that you see right here. Now continuing, we're going to go to the DNS tab, and this is a little bit more important than the other ones because DNS is kind of important in Tailscale. Well, it's not required, but what Tailscale has is something called Magic DNS. So what Magic DNS is going to do, and we see it right here, is it's going to automatically add a DNS entry for the instances that you add to your Tailnet. Now you can disable this if you don't need it, but it's enabled by default and it's not really hurting anything, so you may as well just leave it enabled. Now one thing that I want to point your attention to, because this is something that I ran into, you might have to customize your search domains. The first search domain is going to be the Tailnet that you actually have created here. But if you have a domain, you probably want to edit this right here. I had to. So what I had to do is add my domain here on my actual account. This isn't my actual account, so I'm not going to add it here. This is just a demo account. But what I had to do on mine was add my search domain right here. And this allowed things like NFS to work because I couldn't get to NFS shares, things that are DNS based. You really do want to have your domain here if you do have a domain. This is not required, but since I spent hours trying to figure this out, I just want to save someone else the trouble. So if you have a domain, make sure that you enter that right here. Now, these other options are going to be a bit more advanced, but I just wanted you to be aware of that at least. You could also add global name servers, and this might be pretty important for some of you because If you add a DNS server here, for example, Pi-hole ad blocking, if you have a Pi-hole ad blocking Raspberry Pi, like many of us do, you could use that as your upstream DNS right here in Tailscale, which means that even your phone, if it's connected to Tailscale, will benefit from ad blocking, and every device that has Tailscale will use this DNS. So if you point it to an ad blocking DNS server, then you're effectively deleting the ads from your connection, and then everything runs faster because you don't have to deal with ads. So if that's something that you want to do, if you have one of those servers here, you can absolutely enter that here and have the DNS settings from that server be impactful here in Tailscale. Now back on the Machines tab, there is something important that I want to show you. So what I'm going to do is click on an instance here. I'll click on Alma Linux. And we have routing settings right here. Now, as you can see right now, under exit node, it's not allowed. By default, an exit node or the exit node setting is disabled. Now, you might want to edit this. You might want to turn this on, because if you do, you're effectively creating VPN. So for example, if you have a virtual private server somewhere in the, out in the internet, you install Tailscale on that server, and then you go here to edit this and use it as an exit node. What you can do is have your internet connection egress point be from that server. So even if you're at home and you have Tailscale connected to, let's say you have it on your laptop, and then you set one of these servers as an exit node, then all the websites you visit will see you coming from that node. So if you're using a VPS, then you'll be emerging onto the internet from that node. But it's definitely a useful thing to be aware of, and it is a pretty important feature. But anyway, as you can see, you can create an exit node here, and that's going to, again, effectively set up VPN for you. At this point, what I recommend that you do is install Tailscale on other devices, for example, your phone or your laptop. And having it on your laptop is very effective because you could actually disregard all other network interfaces and only allow the Tailscale or Tailnet IP, and then that basically firewalls everything out to just that one IP. And then what you could do is install the Tailscale client on your laptop, and then you have direct access to that server anytime you need it. So if you have any of these devices, if you have a MacBook, an iPhone, Windows, Linux, Android, whatever you have, feel free to download one of these clients, and then you sign into your account and you'll have access to all of your servers. So hopefully this video was very helpful in getting you guys set up with Tailscale. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Or if you have suggestions for additional content around Tailscale, let me know. And there we go. In this video, I gave you guys an overview and getting started guide for Tailscale. And I hope to do another video on Tailscale very soon, but I need your help. I need to know what you guys want to learn about Tailscale. So let me know in the comments down below what you're looking to learn, and who knows, it might make it into the next video. In the meantime, though, if you like this video, click the like button. That lets YouTube know that you enjoy Linux and want to see more Linux content here on YouTube. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.